So we record data immediately following the activity. Who here has written a daily report the next day? Come on, admit it. You've all done it, right? My husband, when he was working in the field, you know, he'd sit on the couch on Saturday or Sunday filling out his daily reports. So obviously it's not contemporaneous, right? At the time that even on the same day, and see, everybody's done it, right? Everybody's done it. Did I finish filling out a receiving report at some point in my career? Not on the day that I received it? Could have happened, sure. So we're not, and I used to have to get after my foreman all the time, daily reports are supposed to be daily, guys. That's why they're called daily reports, not weekly reports, not when I get around to it reports. Like, there are contractors, GCs out there and owners out there who will insist on seeing your daily reports. Our data for GDP, testing reports, anything like that, inspection reports, must be recorded at the time. You cannot go back later and record the data. We're not allowed to do that here. And you have to record all the data, not just the good data. So if you fail a test, you have to record that. How many times do you pass a pressure test the very first time? What's the percentage? 80%? That's not a terrible percentage. I've seen it much lower than that in a lot of cases. So if you fail a test, that's a report. Failed. Then I had to go find the leak, fix it, and test again. Which, by the way, make sure you're giving yourself enough time in the schedule for retesting, because retesting happens. Line through and NA blanks, and we're going to go through some examples. Use ink only. Double check. This is, again, another place where sometimes an SOP will say you can only use black. No blue, no nothing else. Sometimes they'll allow blue. You have to check and see what is acceptable. But black is always acceptable. Black ink is always going to be acceptable. Red is usually only acceptable if you're redlining, as-builting something. Then that's acceptable. It can't be an erasable ink. It seems silly to say that, but I don't even know. Are there erasable pens anymore? That was a thing, like back in the 80s. I don't know. But yeah, it can't be erasable. You can't use a pencil. You can't use erasable ink. It has to be indelible. And you have to use the spaces provided. Put the right information in the right space and use all the spaces provided. Every single space has to have something in it. So we want to think about that very carefully as we're deciding what our ISO format is going to be updated to be, and we're going to talk about that some more a little bit later. When we talk about what information we want to put on a document, we have to think about the fact that every space that might not be used has to have an NA with an initial and a date on it. So do you want something that is never going to be used or is almost never going to be used? Well, we have to think about that very carefully, especially when we're talking about something like a receiving report. I mentioned yesterday, you might want to have a couple of different formats for a receiving report. One that has electrical and motor data and opening sizes and things like that, and one that doesn't have that information for things that doesn't apply to. So you might have two different kinds of equipment receiving reports so that you don't have all this extraneous data that now you got to go in and NA and initial and date every single time.